Hey everybody, welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games. I am Harry, and today we'll be talking about what I have played this week. This is a series of videos that I've been doing every Monday just to let you know the games that I've been playing for the last week or so. I always cover the week from Sunday to Saturday, so today we'll be covering February 2nd to February 8th. Just to give you an idea of my gaming habits and let you know when I've had a good week or a bad week. I will say this. This week was an exceptionally good week. I played 33 games this week. How is that humanly feasible? If you watch this video, you'll see why. So let's just get straight to it. And first, I'm going to talk about the games that I played with my wife, Lily, this week. Uh, we played Sagrada, which is a new game in this house. It's not a new game. It was published about two plus years ago. But we've played it twice this week, my wife and I. And it has been a fun experience. She won the first time, I won the second time. As we're getting the feel for this game. It's a dice rolling game where not only do you roll dice, but then after you roll them, you have to draft them. The players take turns drafting the dice of their preference, and they're putting it on their player board, which is a window. It's the idea of you're recreating a Sagrada, a stained glass window, and you need to have particular colored dice and particular numbered dice in the different slots on your window frame. So it's a puzzly type of game, but it's very pretty, very soothing. It's a very calm, relaxing experience, and at the same time, an analytical, brain burning type of game. And we've had fun playing it. We've also played Alhambra, which is a family favorite here. We've been playing this for a couple years now. It's a former Spiel des Jahres winner, successful game in that regard, and it's a tile placement game. You're buying tiles. You're drafting different money cards of different currencies that allow you to go to the different markets. There's 4 different markets in the game, and buy different colored tiles that come out randomly. And you're trying to get sets of these colored tiles, and you score for having the majority, for having the secondary, for having the third most or the tertiary in these respective colors, and that's how you score the points. We've been playing 2 players. For 2 players, there is a 2-player variant that has a dummy player, but the 2-player variant, I say, is very highly functional, and we've had lots of success with it. And again, it was a fun experience playing it. We played in the Year of the Dragon, a Stefan Feld game, which is basically consists of surviving 12 rounds of calamity, 12 rounds of catastrophe. One after another, terrible things are happening in the Year of the Dragon. You have famine and hunger and pestilence and disease, and you have outrageous taxes by the king and warfare by the Mongolians. You have all these terrible things that are happening, and you gotta withstand it. You gotta survive it. You gotta prepare it. And honestly, you're gonna have casualties in this game, and tons of them. You just kind of have to pick and choose where do you want to suffer those casualties. So it could be a very stressful experience if you only like to experience prosperity within your game. This is definitely not the game for you. So those were the only 3 games, but 4 plays, because we played Sagrada twice, that Lily and I got to get to the table this week. But now I'm going to move on to the games I played with my nephews this week. Also pretty light, for comparatively speaking, for how I play with my nephews. We got to play the game of Descent. And Descent in and of itself, it's a dungeon crawler game where a group of heroes are going against the Overlord and his monsters. This game could take quite a while. I think this game took 2+ hours for us to play. I was the Overlord. We are doing a campaign. This game has a campaign where you do different quests from game to game, and based on who wins these quests, the next quest is determined. Players level up and their characters become more and more powerful. The Overlord becomes more powerful and has access to greater monsters, and so on and so forth. And ultimately, what matters is who wins the last game in this 9-game campaign. I think we played game 5. I've won 4 out of the 5 games, so that's helped me get stronger and stronger at a more rapid clip than my nephews. However, there's still no guarantee. There's still 4 more games to be played. And even if I win the next 3, if somehow they win the last one, then they won the campaign. So go figure. And then we got to switch it up after playing a very heavy, intense game. We got to play a short, light, family fun party game, which is Time's Up. And Time's Up is basically like a game of charades, except from round to round, things evolve and become a little bit harder. It doesn't start out as charades. There's also a memory element because the cards and it's called Time's Up Title Recall, so it's all about titles, movie titles, book titles, song titles, things that are known within mainstream, within pop culture. And the cards that you're giving clues for in the first round are the cards you're giving clues in the second and third round. So there is a memory element to it. If you can remember some of these, then later on it doesn't take as many clues for you to figure it out. But that's a game we played. It was fun. Time's Up is always a fun experience. If you like lighthearted party games, Time's Up is definitely one to give a try. Now we're gonna go to the games that I played with my son Nick, and this is a big reason why I got to 33 plays. And I am counting these sometimes in previous weeks. I haven't counted these, but I am counting these this time. So I played the game of Zingo with Nick 6 times. Now, mind you, Zingo is a game that lasts about 5 minutes. So 6 plays of Zingo really is only about 30 to 40 minutes of time. So yeah, I got to play 6 games of Zingo with my son Nick, and it was very, very fun. And I actually won 3 out of those 6 games, which, mind you, Zingo is a very luck-based game. And not only is it luck-based, but it's about choosing specific tiles to put on your player card. And if Nick and I ever need the same card, the same tile, he'll always get preference and he'll take it first. So Nick wins this game 99% of the time. But I was able to sneak in 3 victories against him, so that was fun. And then we played Animal Upon Animal twice. And this is big. And anybody who follows me on Instagram, which my Instagram is When Harry Met Board Games 7. Anybody who follows me on Instagram already knows about this. But Nicholas beat me for the first time ever at Animal Upon Animal, and I did not let him win. See, every time Animal Upon Animal is a dexterity game where you're stacking different animals on top of one another, so you need to have lots of tact, lots of carefulness, and all that stuff, good fine motor skills. But Nick has always been silly about it and playful about it. He's almost wanted to knock down the animals because the goal is to get rid of all your animals, but every time you knock down the animals, well, guess what? All the animals you knock down go back into your collection, even if they used to be the other player's collection. The other players' animals, they go into your collection. So to win the game, you have to be successful at stacking these without having them collapse and so on and so forth. So Nick, to some extent, makes the game about collecting the animals. So he almost sabotages himself and gets excited about getting more animals, while I, little by little, end up getting rid of my animals, and I usually win. However, I made 2 mistakes. I guess I was a little careless, but I also wanted to challenge myself a little bit, but I thought I'd be successful at it. I made 2 attempts of stacking animals that failed for me, and they fell down, and I had to get a bunch of animals in one shot. And I remember feeling frustrated because I'm like, oh man, if I'm the player who usually does good and ends this game, and now I've slowed this down, this game might last for a while. And then something just clicked with Nick. From that point forward, it's like he figured out the game, and he figured out the goal of the game, and he figured out how to do it well. From that point forward, he would just grab an animal and stack it successfully. Grab an animal and stack it successfully. Again, check out my Instagram if you want to see the final product of the stack of animals. Well, that's When Harry Met Board Games 7 on Instagram.com. And he did it, and he basically did it all by himself, because maybe without the exception of like 2 of those animals in that stack, he put them all. And I was just so proud. Not only that he won, but that the game just started to click with him. That was just a beautiful experience for me as a father. So that was Animal Upon Animal, and we played that game twice, and Nick won the second time. Now we move on to the games that I play with my friend Andrew. So my friend Andrew comes about twice a month, and we get a good amount of gaming in. So we played Thunderstone Quest, which is quickly becoming a favorite for me. It's a deck builder with a fantasy theme. And again, for me, this was very important because this is maybe my 6th or 7th time playing this game, and I finally won for the first time. So that was very, very exciting. Thunderstone Quest. We played a game called Minotaur Lords 2 times. It's a tactical back and forth card game where you're playing your cards on 6 different regions and you're trying to control 4 of those regions on the beginning of your turn, and if you do, you win the game. Then we played Chaos Ball, which is a futuristic fantasy sports game with a new fake sport called Chaos Ball. And you're fighting each other and you're attacking each other and you're stealing the ball and you're trying to get the ball into certain spots on the board that score you points if you have possession of the ball, or score you points if at the end of each quarter your players are on that spot. And it's an interesting game. Not a huge fan of it, but I could appreciate some elements of it, and we had a good time playing it. Then we played Small World, which Small World, if you're a Risk lover, if you've played a lot of Risk in your life, Small World is probably a good game for you to try, because it gives you lots of the elements of Risk without the randomness, without the luck based frustration that you could experience in a game of Risk. Every player controls a different fantasy race with a special power that not only its fantasy race gives it, but an additional power on top of it. And there's all these different combinations of the races and the powers that can possibly come. But there's no way you can go the whole game with the same race. Eventually, your forces will dwindle down, you'll thin out, and you're going to have to put your race in decline and draft another race. And just finding the right moment to give up on your former race and start on a new race, finding that right moment, not too soon, not too late, is really the challenge of this game, and that's Small World. And those were the games I played with my friend Andrew. Now I also have my friend Junior and Chris, my friends Junior and Chris, come over, and we played 3 games. First, we played Merchants of Amsterdam, which is a very underrated game in my opinion. It's an out of print game, so buying it or finding it to buy would be very, very hard. If you're interested in playing it with me, let me know. But basically, you're bidding for power or for a presence on the board in 3 different realms of the board. You have the trade offices that are around the 4 sectors of the earth. You have warehouses that are in the 4 districts of Amsterdam, and then you have ships of commodity ships that are in the 4 different shipping tracks, representing the 4 different resources or the 4 different goods that we are trading as merchants of Amsterdam, right? And you're trying to have the majority, or again the secondary, in each of these sectors, in each of the 4 districts of Amsterdam, in each of the 4 tracks of the shipping commodities. You're trying to be in first or second, preferably, in any of those areas, because you score accordingly if you're first or second. So there's an area majority kind of feel for people who are familiar with area majority, and there's that auction bidding. The auction bidding is really, really cool because you've got it's a Dutch auction. You got this old school, timer that you click, and you have to press it, and as it goes clockwise, it goes through different numbers, and it starts at 200 and it works its way down. So you're trying to get a good price. You don't want to hit it too early, but you don't want another person to bid before you. So people can be competitive about it, and cause some destruction as they swing their arms across the table to try to hit that thing first. But the rulebook does say to be gentle, to hit it gently. Let's be gentlemen about it. So it's a fun game. I've had a good time. I do like auction bidding games. If auction bidding is something that sounds appealing to you, then I think this is a good game to try. So we played Merchants of Amsterdam. We also played Hollywood Golden Age, which is another classic or old school auction bidding game where we're all Hollywood producers trying to recruit actors and cameramen and seamstresses and producers, directors, to all fulfill the different scripts of the different movies that we're trying to accomplish. And you get awards for having the best films in the different genres. You get awards for having the best film overall from round to round. For having the worst film, even, you get an award. So it's a fun game. It's a cool experience. Again, if you like auction bidding, if you like the Hollywood theme, it's a fun fun experience. And then we played Mission Red Planet, which is a area control, area majority game where you're trying to get your astronauts onto Mars and colonize the different colonies, take over, and again, having the majority in these different colonies, which will score you different resources, some more valuable than others, that total up to a different amount of points during the game. What makes this interesting is that each player has their secret mission of cards, and at the end of the game, you reveal the missions, and if you accomplish your missions, they might get you a whole chunk of points, and all of a sudden, the person you thought was last might be first. So those are the games we played with Junior and Chris. Then I played with my cousin Rodney. I went over to my cousin Rodney's at New York, and we played a bunch of games. We played Ticket to Ride Europe, which is another iteration of Ticket to Ride, another map of Ticket to Ride that not just only adds a bunch of different geography, but adds some different tweaks to the rules that makes things a little bit more interesting. It gives you a little bit more decision making, a little bit more press your luck kind of elements and things of that nature. We had a good time with that. Then we played Forbidden Desert, a cooperative game where you're trying to gather 4 different parts to a special ship that's going to fly you out of the desert, because you and your teammates are all stranded in the desert, but you got to survive the sandstorm. The sandstorm pushes the board and shifts the board around, so nothing stays the same consistently. We played this game and we lost, but we gave the game a run for their money. There was moments where we felt good and close about winning, but towards the end of the game, we realized we weren't going to accomplish it. Then we played Marvel Legendary, deck building game with a Marvel theme. As a matter of fact, you could check out my top 10 essential board games to see where that game shows up. It is on that top 10 list, but I'm not going to tell you where. So Marvel Legendary, deck building game with a Marvel superhero theme. My cousin Ronnie and I, we played cooperatively. We were fighting against the mastermind of Mephisto, and we were able to pull out the victory, and that was fun. We also played Race for the Galaxy, one of my favorite games. It's a card game where you're trying to create your own tableau, as they call it, which is basically just a set of cards on your table in front of you that represent your empire, and you're trying to build the strongest empire of planets and developments. And we played that game. I will say this, I did come out on top of that game. I don't normally point out my victories, but the last time we played this game, my cousin Ronnie was able to beat me. So I'm glad I was able to get my revenge on this game, because this is a game that I win quite often at. So when he beat me, it was a little bit frustrating, I must admit. But I got my revenge, Race for the Galaxy. Then we played Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal is, in my opinion, a really, really good game, a really underrated game, as I've mentioned with some of the other games in this list. Basically, you're going through the 12 different regions in India, and you're trying to gain influence with the different court officers there, and even with the Mughal. And you're also trying to dominate the market there. And you're doing a special clever bidding system where instead of betting money or anything like that, you're putting down cards. You always got to follow the same suit, the same color of cards that you started the round with. And each of these cards has different symbols representing the different areas of influence you're trying to have the majority in. The market, the 4 different court officers, the Mughal. And basically the amount of symbols counts for how much influence you have in that area. And when your turn comes up, you can drop out from the bid. And if at that point you have the majority in any of those areas of influence, then you gain the favor of those court officers, or you gain the rights to the market and to all the goods there. You get to put palaces down in that region. In future rounds, whenever you link palaces from one region to another region, you score points for each individual region that you connected together. It has a lot of cool things going on it. It's a beautiful production, a reprint from Z-Man Games. And again, I always have a blast playing this game, Taj Mahal. And then we played Keltis, which was new for both of us. And Keltis is, if anybody's familiar with Lost Cities, the card game, it's basically the board game version of it, except Keltis is on a beautiful green board. You're playing cards in sequential order. You can choose to go descending or ascending, but once you've made that commitment to descend, to go from 8 to 7 to 6, or to ascend, go from 2 to 3 to 4. That's it. You're committed to that. And for each card you play, you get to move your different pieces around 5 different tracks. And the further you make it in those tracks, the more points you score. You collect different tokens along the way that give you different bonuses. And whoever has the most points wins the game. Rodney was able to beat, we played 3 times. Rodney was able to beat me the first 2 times. And what was so sad was that at the end of game 2, I made a crucial error. It was very late at night. I made a crucial error that cost me the game. And that was so frustrating. So I had to play a 3rd time. And we played a 3rd time. And again, towards the end of game 3, I made a crucial mistake that brought Rodney close, but luckily didn't give him the win. I still came out on top and won the game. And those were all of my games that I played with other people. But I did play 2 solo games this week, and I will mention it. I played Carson City, the card game. This was my first time playing this game. This is a game about building the city of Carson City. And basically, you are doing an auction system. And in a solo game, you have 3 other dummy players who are competing in that auction with you. And you randomly draw cards from their deck, and that determines how much they bid. But it's also kind of like a trick-taking element, where you're playing different cards that have different suits on them, and whoever has the highest number on that card basically won the bid, and they get to draft from a lineup of different city cards that provide different buildings and so on and so forth. Or you could draft from the top card of the character deck. The characters give you special abilities and special scoring options at the end of the game. And I was able to play this game, have a really good time. Even though it was my first time, I was kind of having a hard time figuring it out. But I was able to come in 2nd place. So out of the 3 dummy players, only one of them was able to beat me. And it was pretty close, actually, between the dummy player and I. But it was a fun experience. I look forward to playing this game with multiple players. I do have it on an upcoming lineup with my nephews. We are planning a special themed Wild West game night with just my nephews, my niece, and my wife and I. And we have a bunch of Wild West themed games that are on the lineup, and Carson City, the card game, will be one of them. And then finally, for one of my playthrough videos, I played a solo game of Dice Hospital. Dice Hospital, similar to Sagrada, which I mentioned earlier, is a dice rolling, dice drafting game where you're rolling different colored dice. And again, the colors and the numbers all matter. And these dice represent your patients. And you are running a hospital. You grab these patients, you put them in your hospital. And over the course of the game, you recruit different specialists, different special hospital units that help you treat these patients, because your goal is to treat them to the point that you could discharge them from your hospital. The more patients you discharge, the more points you score. However, if you neglect your patients, they go down in health and eventually die, and those cost you points. And that was it. Those were the 33 plays that I had this week. I cannot complain. It was a great week. I am a blessed person, and I had tons of fun, and I look forward to having another good week, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Well, thank you so much for taking out some time to watch my video. This is Harry from When Harry Met Board Games. Keep following this channel. Please hit the like button down below. Please subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. Tune in, because this week I will be having my top 10 to 6 games of all time. And then finally, I will be having my number 5 through 1 games of all time. It's going to be an exciting week of content here at When Harry Met Board Games. Take care. Bye-bye.